everybody. Welcome to Rants on the Ruling Class. I am Todd. This is my cohort, Bill. I hope everybody's doing well. Lots of crazy things going on in the world. I think the geopolitical scene is right now unlike anything I've ever seen. We've got stuff going on in Central America, Middle East, over in Ukraine, the Mediterranean. It's everywhere we've got something brewing. And I don't know I don't know if I've ever seen anything like this in my time. I'm pretty certain that I haven't. And I think of what's going on now and what happened in Israel, and I can't help but think all these people pouring across the border, these military-age men, are coming into this country to camp out, set up sleeper cells of Hamas, just like they did in Israel. And I question myself, how vulnerable are we as the United States right now? Are people in this country really realizing what's going on in this active war that they're doing? These people are not attacking other military bases or military personnel. They're attacking citizens and civilians of Israel. And I don't think people in this country really understand. And what we've got is all of the wins that we were having. We had the Hunter Biden corruption coming to a head. We had the Biden family corruption coming to a head. The Ukraine war was now more and more news coming out about all the politicians that were tied to the money laundering in the Ukraine and how corrupt that company is. Speaker of the House mess and all that stuff. The Ukraine amount of taxpayer dollars that have just went and refunded the politicians in order to get them reelected. All this stuff has gone out of the news cycle now. You don't hear nothing about it. You know why? Because we got stuff going on over in Israel. And we're supposed to support Israel, right? We're their biggest ally. So they're using this as an opportunity to chew up the news cycle and take away everything about the good stuff that we were making gains in with America first and putting America first. This right now, I seen a meme today of it was two stands with people standing in line, and there was a Ukraine flag and an Israeli flag, and the Ukraine booth had nobody at it, and the line was wrapped clear around the building, waiting to come up to the Israel flag. And I think that's what they do. It's one thing or the other. We left the $6 billion behind to fund Israel or Iran to do this, and the Afghan mess. What do we leave over there? 80 billion or $8 billion in equipment.
More than that.
And now we're going to fund Israel to attack Hamas when we armed Hamas and the Taliban in the first place. Here we are on both sides of another, what appears to me, the verge of a world war. And it's just another. When are we going to start putting American first and American people? That's, I guess, my opening rant is it's time to get our nose back here and quit funding all this crap going on overseas.
Well, we're funding the opposition. That's the terrible part of it. It'd be one thing if we were funding true allies to defend themselves, even though, I mean, you could almost make sense of that, or at least justify it. Even if, we were hungry, we could still reach out a helping hand. But that's not what's happening.
No,
our money's going to spend the people attacking our allies. And, I don't know, Todd, I don't know if I should start this way or not, but I had a thought the other day. I shared it with you a little bit earlier. I think you're right. I've never seen anything like this in my entire life. I don't believe World War II was a pretty big deal. My dad, and my grandfather and a lot of my family members have lived through wars. So, you got to take it into consideration. But this is the worst I've ever known it. And I would say it's probably the worst or the biggest threat to our country, at least in decades and decades and decades. And it is so purely evil.
Yeah.
That it's either, I was thinking the other day, this could either be the second coming, right? The preparation for the second coming in times.
Yeah.
Or, let's put it this way. My prayer is, God, either come quickly or help us defend ourselves. Right.
Well, there's no going back. Nothing. It's not ever going to be the same. It's either going to be a beginning of I think you said when we were talking before, the beginning of a very dark age for our country, or it's going to be the renaissance of the United States and the American people.
Yeah, I think we're on the precipice, and we need to dive into this a little bit more, but I truly believe we're on the precipice of either a new dark ages or a new American renaissance. And it's going to go one way or the other. You're right. It's not going to look the same as it was. It's either going to be great or it's going to be terrible. And depending on how the elections in 2024 go, is going to be a huge indicator of that. And by the way, when I say that, I don't just mean whether Donald Trump gets elected or not. I'm talking about whether we, the patriots, the people that truly believe in American nationalism and American patriotism, whether we take over the government or not, because that's where it starts. And we have to take over the government. We have to truly, and I don't mean the rhinos, I don't mean just the people with the R behind their name pretending, like Rob Voss out there in Wisconsin, who's trying to sabotage all the good work the Wisconsin legislature's done for election integrity. They're trying to out that election commissioner up there who has allowed all of the corruption. And they've done everything. And he, as chairman of the House up there, has stood in the way and refused to bring her impeachment proceedings to the floor. And he's a Republican. And if he
Yeah,
stalls long enough, she'll end up still being in charge of the 2024 election in Wisconsin.
and that's a problem, big
Oh,
problem.
it's evil. It is absolutely evil. It's someone pretending to be on our side who is absolutely sabotaging us at every possible turn and in these moments. But I want to get back to what you're talking about Israel for just a minute. I asked you earlier if you'd seen some of the pictures, and I know some people have seen some people have seen more than others. I'm not sure I recommend anyone look at them unless you really are unsure of what's happening. Because I'm telling you, there are pictures floating around of young girls. Like I've got nieces that are that age, barely out of college, and are up to age 30, and that young, innocent, having fun, Western, fun-loving girls going to a concert, ironically, a concert for peace. They had Hamas terrorists paraglide in, mowing them down and taking hundreds of them hostage. There are pictures floating around of bodies, of these girls' bodies, still dressed in their cutoff shorts and their halter tops like they were dressed to go to the concert, piled up in the back of pickup trucks, dead. This is what's happening. These are the attacks. And there's over 700 deaths accounted for, attributed right now. I'm sure that the death toll is going to be higher than that. Over 1,000 rockets were launched into Israel. These aren't attacks on the military, like you said. These are attacks on innocent civilian, children and girls, women. It is pure evil what is going on. And the thing, Todd, that just will bring a tear to your eye is it's been reported that a lot of the weapons being used came from Afghanistan. They're our weapons that
Right.
we left behind, that Joe Biden left behind in Afghanistan to the Taliban, have now made their way to Hamas. In addition, remember, it's the Biden regime that just freed up $6 billion of funding to Iran, but of course they won't use that to support terrorist activities. But it didn't start there, Todd. The Biden administration, I think over a year ago now, freed up a lot of the funds from Iran. They allowed them to have access back into the SWIFT, the monetary system. They've been loosening restrictions on Iran ever since Biden took office. And of course, this was going to be the result. These things aren't happening by accident. Taking
Right.
these things out of the news cycle is not happening by accident. This is all part of the globalist cabal movement to overthrow our country. I mean, who are the globalists? They're they're the same people that have hated our country and tried to destroy us forever and ever. People like Iran, Iraq, the communist dictators of Cuba, Venezuela, China, all these other countries out there that have always hated us and done everything they could to undermine us and hurt us and go to the UN and try to vote us out and block us. It's the same group of people. But now they're enriched enough via globalism that they have totally corrupted. They bought out our political class of both parties. They
Yes.
have corrupted and bought out the C-suites in America. Does everybody know what I'm talking about when I say C-suites? We're talking the corporate level, the corporate floors, the top floors, not just the CEO, the top executive positions. All of these people have graduated from Ivy League schools that have been totally corrupted and bought out by the globalist money. And so they've been indoctrinated to hate America, to not recognize American exceptionalism, to go out there and think that everything is relevant. There's no such thing as moral truth anymore, Todd. These people have been taught and indoctrinated into moral relevance. And if
Yeah,
there's no ethics, if there's no right and wrong and clear divide on it, if every decision comes down to you deciding the relevance of an ethical issue, then human beings are always going to tilt the scale to the side that benefits them. It's
true.
human nature.
Yep.
So corruption is going to abound. And that is exactly what's happening.
And there's another factor in this. You were saying how it's the same countries that have always hated us. But there's another factor of this that hasn't been a factor in all the previous attempts and that's the falling out of the American dollar with BRICS organization. And that adds a whole new twist to this in my mind when, before it was the American dollar we had the power with the American dollar. It was the favored currency in the entire world. So we always had that in our back pocket that people had to get along with us because that's how they would get paid was in the American dollar. That's gone. They don't have to do that anymore.
Todd, that's the end game. Let's be very, very clear about something, okay? All the previous people trying to overthrow our country, they were trying to overthrow our military. Because if we're defenseless, we'd be at their mercy. They could point a rifle at us and say, do this. That's not the game plan now. They're not trying to overthrow our military.
Right.
They're trying to overthrow our economy.
Yes.
Okay, because once they destroy our economy, destroy the dollar, like you're saying, although that's not the totality of it, but once they destroy our economy, we're at their mercy every bit as much as if they had a gun pointed in our head. And all corporate America, all our institutions, our own government will be forced to march to their music. It's the same result. They denude the sovereignty of the United States and they hold dominion over us. It's just a different way they're going about it this time, but you're right, it's the same players.
And I think really people need to understand the significance of that. When you're going to see hyperinflation in this country, and you go to buy a loaf of bread, and it's $15 or $16 for a loaf of bread. A dozen of eggs is $10 or $12, a dollar a piece. The middle class in this country cannot sustain that. They cannot.
Well, there won't be a middle class, Todd. They're never totalitarian regimes never have.
It will be the have and the have-nots.
I shouldn't say any middle class, but they have very small middle class.
Haves and the have-nots, and that's
exactly what it falls down to. So no, that's what we're facing right now. Now, all hope is not lost. I don't want the people to think this is total. I know it sounds real doom and gloom. And we're very far down that path. But we said, look, it's either a new dark ages or a new renaissance. There's still hope for a renaissance. And the thing is, we do have to take back our government, not just the presidency. We have to take back the House. We have to take back the Senate. And again, not just with Rhino Republicans, but with people that truly value American nationalism. The press does everything they can to make nationalism sound like a dirty word. It's not. It just means patriotism. It just means you care about your country. You believe your country should be sovereign. In other words, we rule ourselves. We don't have to listen to the United Nations. We don't have to listen to what any other country tells us to do. We rule ourselves. That's all it means. Right. And for people that understand that, people that believe it, we need to start educating people about how important that is and why it's so important. But if we can take back our government with people that truly believe that, we can start rolling back all of these other things. I mean, I was talking to you just a minute ago. Think for just a moment. We talk about BlackRock and Vanguard, those huge investment companies that have caused so much destruction by exercising influence and blackmail, economic blackmail over all these, what used to be corporate America. They're now multinational companies, but traditional American companies. And they go in there and say, you're going to start promoting ESG and critical race theory and everything else, or we're not going to invest in you. Of course, that means the stock prices plummet. I mean, it's just disaster. So if you put the right government in there, if you've got I say Republicans, but if you've got conservatives in there that will have the guts to stand up and say, wait a minute, BlackRock, wait a minute, Vanguard, all you investment groups that are doing this, you're supposed to be impartial, just investing in companies. That's not what you're doing. You're taking an active part in the management of the companies. That makes you a monopoly. And we're busting you up. Not only is it illegal, not only are you going to stop, but we're breaking you up for it. No more of this power that you've got here, and totally do it. Same thing with a company like Google.
Facebook, all that
Facebook,
stuff.
You're acting as an extension of the United States government. You're violating the Constitution by exercising censorship. So guess what? Not only does that come to an end, we're breaking you up. We're not going to ever take a chance on you doing it again because you've already violated the Constitution once. You see, once we have control of the government, we can start rolling back these things. Think about our universities. We can go into our universities and say, hey, guess what? You have not been acting as a charity, as a non-taxable charity, unbiased to educate students. You have been acting as a conduit of a political persuasion, of an ideology. And you've been actively pursuing anti-American type of activities and indoctrination. So guess what? No more governmental funding. Guess what? No more student loans to support any students that go to your schools. Guess
Yeah.
what? You're going to be responsible for attracting students. You're going to be responsible for everything that you do and get. You have no more immunity, auto immunity from the US government. You have no more protections. You're on your own. And good luck attracting students, because you know what? It's going to be very much in the open that the students that go to your school are indoctrinated as anti-American. So there are all kinds of, and I'll tell you, I'll guarantee you, you start doing that. Oh, by the way, we'll take away their charitable status too. They're going to have to start paying
Yeah,
taxes
that's got to be
on all
part of
those
it. I
endowments.
agree.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
those endowments they have. Now, I guarantee you, you start doing that, they'll start changing their tune very, very quickly. And the same thing can be true. Our judiciary, the radical judiciary out there, the ones that have made it through that don't give a hoot about the Constitution. Well, if we own the government and we can start implementing some of these things where the American people start saying, wow, they're serious, they're real, they want to give us our freedoms back, and they get behind us, we can start impeaching a lot of these corrupt judges. And the ones that we don't impeach, there'll be a whole lot of them. They're just wishy-washy going along to get along. Well, they'll start going along with us to get along, and they'll start following the Constitution again. We can talk about the cartels on the southern border and how they're corrupting. The entire government of Arizona, in my opinion, is corrupted by the cartels, the drug
Mhm.
cartels. We can go in there and declare the cartels terrorist organizations. Go ahead and remove their influence. We can
Yeah.
peel all of this back, but Todd, it starts with retaking our our government
Well,
politically.
my
It
concern
starts.
on that is we can make it to the 2024 election. That's where I agree with you 100%. I I honestly can say I'm worried and scared if we're going to make it that far. We've talked about having incremental change is not going to cut the mustard. I think there's got to have to be some big drastic stuff that's got to happen. And I still am baffled by people saying they don't like Donald Trump. They don't like the way he tweets. I can promise you what's going on right now in the world today would not be happening if he was sitting in the White House. And I'll take that to my grave. I don't care whether you like the man or not. To me, he's just another man. Puts his pants on the same way that you and I do. I'm not beholden to Donald Trump. But this stuff would not be going on in this country if he was in the White House. It's going on. It's laying directly at the feet of Biden and the globalist regime, and they're furthering their agenda while we're sitting on our thumbs.
Well, that's absolutely true. But here's the thing about it. Again, if 2024 is what it's going to come down to. And look, right now, I don't think most of the globalist ruling class. Now, we've always used the term ruling class, right? Because it's kind of a catch-all for
Sure.
all these different factions out there. But the thing that's so hard for people to understand, and it's hard to explain, the ruling class is not a hierarchy. It's not like you got one person like Obama sitting at the top of it, or the Rothschild family, or pick your evil, or George Soros, pick your evil villain of choice. It's not like there's one person that's elected president, he's giving all the orders and everybody follows. It doesn't work that way. It's a culture, Todd. It's a culture of people that hate the United States. That for one reason or another, for their own self purposes of greed, they want to destroy the sovereignty of the United States and our economy. Maybe it's ideology because they hate capitalism and they hate democracy and freedom, and they believe that if they can run communism, they can finally make it work, even though everybody in history has tried it and failed. Or it could be theology. Maybe they hate Christianity and they want to see us destroyed for that reason. It's all of these disparate factions, all of these disparate things, and some of it's pure greed. They just want to make more money, and the laws, the rule of law in the United States stand in their way. I'm talking to you, cartels, among others. So whatever it is, all of these different reasons, all of these different factions that are united by common purpose. They're united by common cause to denude the sovereignty of the United States. And a lot of them Not all of them. I think some of them are kind of desperate. I think some of them are seeing what's going on, the true trend, because the majority of people are not with them, no matter what the news wants you to think. But I think a whole bunch of them, Todd, believe their own press. A whole bunch of them are sitting back and they're kind of confident. They think, oh, we got this in total control. So the moves they're making are not moves of desperation, contrary to what a lot of people think. I believe the moves are just a logical next step in their mind because the disruption of our society, the disruption of our economy has always been part and parcel of the grand scheme of things. They want to divide and conquer. They want to divide the races, white against black, against Latino, against Asian. They want to divide the sexes, man against woman. They want to create new sexes, heaven forbid. They want to divide the religions, right? They want to
Yeah.
divide the rich and the poor. Any kind of division they can make, they will absolutely do it because it divides us and it causes conflict. So when you talk about people coming across the border, and to agitate, yes, I have no problem believing because that's always been part of the program is to go out there. What do you think Black Lives Matter was all about? What do you think Antifa is all about? These are disruptive organizations to cause chaos and to disrupt our society. That's why we have open borders. It's one of the big purposes of it. So yeah, all of these things are real. And you're absolutely right about one thing. It's going to get worse before it gets better.
It
Because
is.
the closer we get to 2024, the more they're going to escalate, the more they're going to keep pouring it on because they see this as their opportunity. If they can slam the door on us in 2024, if they can consolidate total authoritarian power over the United States, that's the same thing as saying denuding our sovereignty.
Yeah.
We've lost it. And that is, I believe, could very well usher in a new dark ages. So it all comes down to 2024, my friends. And I'm not, I still think we can do it. I believe we can. I think Americans are waking up left and right. I think we're making strides in all different places. I think there's a lot of distraction. There's going to be a lot of misery, a lot of pain. And unless, the Lord decides to come and save us all from it, we're going to have to deal with it. And I think that standing up to it and keeping a positive attitude and keeping our focus in the right direction, not being intimidated, not bowing to evil, because this is good against evil, Todd. I
Absolutely.
am absolutely convinced of that. So, we have to remain strong in our faith and our faith and our belief, and we have to support each other and help each other stand. If one of us starts to fall, someone else needs to jump in and hold us up. And I don't know. I hope this doesn't sound too dire, but it's real. That's what we're facing right now, and that's how I feel.
Well, and I think to be real, I would encourage you to get your family in order, get your stuff in order, have a plan.
Mm.
That if the chaos comes to you and your neighborhood, how are you going to deal with it? What are you going to do? What's your plan? Uh, because I think the days of thinking, oh, it could never happen to me, I think those days we're past that. You better start taking steps. When it happens, what am I going to do? Is where I would say you better get you and your family to and start taking steps to ensure that you've got food, to ensure that you've got stuff that you're going to need if you have to hunker down for a while. So, um, and by all means, I think we really need to talk to other Americans and come up with a plan and say, hey, if this goes down, what are we going to do?
Yep.
What's your plan?
Well, and I think the biggest plan right now is to help everyone wake up. Do not be
Yeah.
cowed. Do not be cowed. Be willing to speak the truth. This is pure communism trying to overthrow our country. And it's time. I mean, it's not, we can't. There used to be an expression called pussyfooting around. We can't pussyfoot around anymore. We
Right.
can't be too nice. We can't say, well, this Republican in Congress, he's just a rhino. He just doesn't get it. No, he is a corrupt globalist. He
Yes.
is supporting communism, whether he's greedy or whether he's being, whether he's naive, whether he's being bribed. I don't know. I don't care. He is corrupt because he is violating his oath to the Constitution. This is a war on our country. It's a war on our sovereignty. And these people, whether the Democrat, whether the Republican, if you're not hearing their names standing up and fighting to defend us like Matt Gaetz, like Donald Trump, and there's about 100 other people, Republicans out there, good people standing up and fighting. But if you're not hearing their name in the fight to protect us and defend us, they're probably part of the corrupt political class.
And the reality of it is I say when I refer we conservatives, people that love this country, I think maybe even conservatives, because there's a lot of people that maybe have probably more liberal ways of thinking, but I can't help but think they love this country as much as I do. So I can't even really call it. I'm talking about the line is drawn. Either you love this country and you want to see it go forward and carry on the freedom and liberties that we've had forever, or you're on the other side of it, and
It
there's no middle ground anymore.
maybe here's a way, simple way to say it, Todd. Do you want self rule? Do you believe
Yes,
in self rule? If you believe in self rule, then we have to fight for that right now because they're trying to take it away from us.
absolutely.
And if you're arguing with someone that says, oh, they're not trying to do that, just look, throw up your hands and say, look, God bless you, but
Wrong.
you're wrong. You're wrong. And you really, and just think about this. If I'm wrong and that's really not what it's about, what's the harm has been done? But if you're wrong, you've
Yes,
lost everything. You've
exactly right.
lost everything. You better dot your I's and cross your T's on this one. You better really be checking into it because I'm here to tell you right now, you're wrong. They're coming after our self rule.
And another thing that I think uh, we can wrap up here, but I just want to. One thing we've got to quit doing too is we've got to quit. The evangelical Christian voting bloc in America is a powerful voting bloc,
Mm-hmm.
and the left is very good at using that. Well, how could you vote for him because he said this? Or how could you vote for him because they did this 20 years ago? Or how could you vote for them because they've been divorced and they have three different kids from three different mothers or fathers? How could you vote for them? Be a Christian. How could you vote for them? Really, what you need to be asking yourself is God never used perfect people and he never has. We're not electing ministers to lead a church or to guide us in our faith. That's on us and the church that you're a member of and other Christians that you associate with. That's how you build your faith up. It's not these politicians. We need people that love this country and that is going to fight for this country. And if they have flaws, so be it. You know, you got a splinter in your eye or a wood chunk in your eye. Don't worry about picking their splinters out. We've all got them. So you got to look at how much they love this country and are they doing the right thing? And don't be fractionalized into the evangelical Christian voting bloc and say, I can't vote for him because he said a cuss word or got a DUI back
Or had an
20 years
affair
ago.
sometime. I mean,
Yeah, had an affair. That's not that's we're past that. That's not even what this is about anymore. This is about saving our country and putting people in there that are willing to stand up and fight. And yes, they got flaws. Everybody that fought for this country had flaws. But one
yeah,
thing was there, they loved this country.
yep. Well
You know,
said, my
that's
friend.
really where we're at. So
Well said.
stand your ground, take care of each other. And, you know, it's time. Unite, get together with people, figure out a plan. They come knocking what you're going to do in your neighborhood. So, Bill, you got anything else you want to wrap up with or anything?
Not really, Todd. I think that, this podcast is kind of different than I envisioned it being, but, I just want to urge everybody to not to be overly scared, not to be cowed, not to be overly frightened. I encourage everybody to be resolved to carry the message, to carry the torch, to talk to other people, to redouble the efforts, to spread the word, to enlighten those that haven't seen the light yet. Because, look, yeah, our cause is just and our kids are worth it. And we may not ever get another chance to do it. So,
Well, it's like I was telling some younger people the other day. They were saying how crazy things were, and I said, you know what? You're probably living and you're alive in one of the most dynamic time periods in the history of our country, and you should look at it as a privilege to be part of it. And we can either be part of the solution or we can be part of the problem. And I think God put us here for times just such as this. And however we handle that is up to us.
take it as a personal challenge.
Absolutely right. And even as dire as it is, there's a lot of people around the world that wish they were sitting in my seat in America right now. And it's always a great day to be an American. And communism still sucks and it'll always suck. So we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks, everybody.